0.14 has drastically shifted the meta. Every gun in the game got at least 2 balance changes. We got 5 new guns, customizable weapons, and new missions with lengthy close quarters combat. For each of the now 38 pre-built gun variants in the shop, I'll go over their balance changes and put them on a tier list, ranking mostly off raw performance. Then I'll go over the new best value, performance, and stealth builds for each security level, so sit back and relax and get ready for some epic, lengthy analysis. First up is the only firearm available at security level 0, the 300 credit PM. In 0.14, it got a 16% recoil buff from 45 down to 38, and a 33% reliability buff from 30 to 40. Its DPS and overall stats are still too low to be viable beyond the first 2 missions. That being said, 9x18 P+ ammo can now be purchased starting at security level 2, which increases the damage per bullet by 50%. But still having the worst stats in the game, it'll obviously stay in the F tier. I'll start off security level 1 with the modified PM, which got an 8% recoil buff from 35 down to 32, a 33% reliability buff from 45 up to 60, and an additional 0.2 damage per bullet. The modified PM is about a 20% overall improvement over the basic PM. There's now an option to add a silencer, and it comes with a bottom rail to attach a weapon flashlight or laser sight. The modified PM still has the second worst stats in the game, so it'll also stay in the F tier. The last 9x18 pistol is the modified Fort 17 for 1800 credits. Its recoil got a 14% buff from 35 down to 30, reliability went up 20% from 50 to 60, and it got an insignificant bullet velocity increase and a 0.6 damage nerf. Overall, the Fort 17 is very similar to the modified PM, though notably does have a much larger 15-round magazine, E tier. The first modular firearm on the list is the base variation of the IZH-27. To clarify, with most modular weapons, there's 2 pre-built variations you can buy. One usually uses the cheapest parts available, and the other uses more premium parts. Comparing this to the compact IZH-27 from 0.13, the base IZH-27 increased from 1500 to 1900 credits, recoil moved from 90 up to 96, the bullet velocity got nerfed by about 1%, and its weight more than doubled. For buffs, its accuracy is up by 10, and its reliability went up from 45 to 48. Overall, the buffs and nerfs somewhat cancel out, though the value is slightly less with the price increase. It still has extremely high damage for security level 1 at 80 damage per bullet, and great value per 100 damage at only 20 credits with buckshot. However, it does have significant drawbacks, being the loudest, highest recoil, tied lowest bullet capacity, and nearly the least accurate firearm in the game. One-shotting most early game enemies is great, but using it can end up causing more harm than good if you get swarmed in a bad position. I'll keep it at E tier. Next is the premium IZH-27 for 5500 credits. Compared to the modified IZH-27 from 0.13, its damage went down from 100 to 80, reliability also took a massive hit from 75 to 53, accuracy went down by 1, and its bullet velocity went down by about 15%. It did get a small recoil buff and weight reduction, but overall it was heavily nerfed to better equalize the power of security level 1 firearms. It's important to mention that if you take off the included cartridge belt, top rail, and underbarrel rail before buying, its price drops to less than half, though due to those included attachments, off the shelf it's still a D tier gun. Next is the base variation of the PP91 Kedr, which got a massive nearly 1000 credit price cut. To compensate, its damage per bullet decreased from 21.6 to 20, accuracy moved from 93 down to 86, reliability down from 60 to 48, bullet velocity got nerfed by about 15%, and the 2 side rails were removed. The only buff is the halved recoil, now making full auto much more viable. Ideally, you'd use the PP91 Kedr for stealth, since it's the tied 3rd quietest firearm in the game with a silencer, still has the highest DPS at security level 1, and is very light if used as a primary. Also, it's now viable much further into the game with the addition of P+ ammo, but I'll still have to move it down to D tier with all the new competition. For 3950 credits, you can pick up the new base variation of the PP19 Bizon, which is now available at security level 1. Compared to the modified version from 0.13, it got about a 1500 credit price cut, a massive damage nerf from 27 to 20 with FMJ, and the 2 side rails were removed. Same with the PP91 Kedr, its recoil's been halved, as well as its accuracy, reliability, and bullet velocity got a small buff. Compared to said PP91 Kedr, the main difference you'll notice is the huge 64 round mag, but a few of the stats also got a solid improvement. D tier. tier. Now getting into the security level 1 builds, let's start with value. The free PM and IZH-27 is technically the best, as long as you're good enough to make it work, though just running a PP91 Kedr with a silencer is a close second, since you'll save money from alerting less enemies, and if you already know you want the Kedr or Bizon at security level 2, you may as well buy the base version now. For performance, the Bizon with a modified Fort 17 is the obvious choice. The shotguns at security level 1 are extremely loud, and since armor isn't unlocked yet, the swarms of enemies can make it difficult to avoid taking large damage. Lastly, for stealth, which is focused on keeping builds quiet and light, I'd use just a PP91 Kedr with a silencer. It's the quietest and highest DPS firearm at security level 1, and it's light enough to fit nicely in a sidearm holster. Moving on to security level 2, I'll start with the base variation of the MP9, one of the new firearms in 0.14. For 2600 crits, the stats are nearly identical to the base PP91 Kedr using P+ ammo, though the MP9 comes with a permanent top rail and you can't attach a silencer. There is technically a handguard for sale which doubles as a silencer adapter, but the MP9's unique silencer only unlocks at security level 3. Due to this, I'll put it in the E tier, definitely buy the PP91 Kedr instead. For 3000 credits, you can buy the modified Beretta M9. Its recoil got buffed 20% from 50 down to 40, and its reliability went up 40% from 45 to 63. The highlights here are the solid 39 damage per bullet, fair 23.7 credits per 100 damage, that's 490 meter per second bullet velocity, which is the highest in the game for pistols. Keep in mind that bullet velocity directly correlates with bullet distance into the radius too, meaning the Beretta M9 also has the furthest range of any pistol. Another side note, range became significantly less useful in 0.14. The foliage has gotten significantly more dense, the fog in the peninsula will make distant enemies nearly invisible, and we got 2 new top priority missions, which are a large part close quarters combat. In any case, the Beretta M9 is a solid high value pistol. I'll put it in the D tier. The last 9x19 pistol is the Glock 18C for 4000 credits. Its recoil got buffed 28% from 25 to the tied 3rd lowest in the game at 18. Its reliability went up 58% from 40 to 63. However, the rate of fire got nerfed by 33% from the highest in the game at 1200 rounds per minute to only 800. The Glock 18C is still the best pistol in the game, mostly due to its versatility with full auto, so I'll give it the first C tier. Next is the base Saiga 12. Compared to the modified Saiga 12 in 0.13, got a 12% price drop, the accuracy was reduced from 89 to 84, the bullet velocity got nerfed by 1%, the 2 side rails were removed, and its rate of fire, more specifically rounds per minute, got cut down 40% from 300 to 180. More than half the firearms in the game already have exactly 180 rounds per minute, but at first this still seems like quite a large standardization nerf. However, you still can shoot 3 times per second, which in most scenarios is more than good enough. Also, the recoil got buffed from 65 to 61, its weight got reduced by 90, and there's now a Saiga muzzle brake to purchase. Now compared to the premium IZH-27, you now get a 4 capacity magazine, 20 more damage per bullet, and slightly lower stats overall. While clearly better than the IZH-27, I still can't give it higher than D tier. For 4700 credits, you can pick up the base variation of the newest shotgun, the Benelli M2. Its stats are extremely similar to the Saiga 12, with a bit higher accuracy, bullet velocity, a 50% higher 6 capacity magazine, and a bit worse recoil, reliability, and durability. The biggest difference with the Benelli M2 is the way to reload. The Saiga 12 uses normal magazines, while the Benelli M2 uses a tubular magazine under the barrel, and shells are loaded one at a time to the loading port on the bottom. If you're fluent with the new mag palming mechanic, normal magazines are probably about equal, but the ease of the Benelli M2 definitely has some upside. I'll give the Benelli M2 a D tier, though whether the Saiga or Benelli M2 is better at security level 2 depends on experience. However, the Benelli M2 does have a significantly better upgrade path, which I'll get into later. The premium PP19 Bizon comes in at 4800 credits. Its balance changes are very similar to the base variation, with a bit extra added to the buffs. Compared to the base version, it has slightly better recoil, accuracy, reliability, durability, volume. It has about 30% more bullet velocity. It also replaces the normal handguard for a railed handguard. If you add a silencer, it's the second quietest gun in the game. Yes, all that for only 850 more credits. C tier. Now let's talk about the SKS, and please forgive my rant in advance. Anyway, so the SKS in 0.13.0 was really bad for the price, so the devs snuck in a couple buffs and one of the minor updates to make it more usable, but it still sucked. Now in 0.14, it's one of the few guns that aren't modular yet, so a bunch of people on Reddit made sure the devs gave the SKS and modified SKS some love before the full 0.14 update dropped. The devs went ahead and slashed the price from 8,000 to 5,000. Fair. Then they buffed the damage from 54 to 60 and reduced the recoil from 75 to 43. And due to the reworked durability system not affecting non-modular guns properly, the SKS wears about 3 times slower than guns with the same durability. Also, because you don't need to spray down each part when cleaning, you can just do one small spray and a quick brush and boom, it's back to 100%. Basically, you never have to clean your gun, and when you do, it's free. The issue here is you're getting way too much bang for your buck, especially compared to other security level 2 firearms. The only bad thing to say about the SKS is just the volume being the loudest gun in the game at 80, but if you have the skill to deal with swarms, you're getting incredible value, and you do get armor at security level 2, so swarms are a bit more manageable anyway. Same with a bunch of others, it'll go down to C tier because of new competition, but remember the SKS is a budget beast if used correctly. For the same 5,000 credits, you can pick up the base variation of the new PP19 Vityaz. Compared to the SKS, it has better recoil, accuracy, reliability, rate of fire due to full auto, and is much lighter and quieter. But you get half the damage per bullet, significantly lower bullet velocity and extension range. Ammo costs 20% more per damage, and it's modular, so it'll wear much faster, and it's far more expensive to clean. In raw power on full auto, the PP19 Vityaz is probably slightly better than the SKS, but you'll be chewing through ammo and credits much faster. C tier as well. The next SMG on the list is the base AKS-74U for 5,850 credits. Compared to the modified AKS-74U in 0.13, it got a huge 62% recoil buff from 60 to 23, damage went up from 42.5 to 43, and reliability went up 9% from 55 to 60. The accuracy got nerfed from 92 to 86, the bullet velocity dropped by 1%, the weight went up by 85, and lost the 2 side rails for attachments. Overall, I'd call this a small nerf, but with the recoil lowered drastically, full auto is finally usable with decent range. C tier. Next is the premium 7,000 credit version of the Kedr. If you compare it to the base version, you'll notice many similarities. Damage, the same. Recoil, accuracy, reliability, bullet velocity, and rate of fire are basically the same as well. The only notable differences here is the bundled silencer, unique top rail, and a handguard with built-in rails. With the included attachments, it'll move up to C tier. The last security level 2 firearm is the modified SKS, which got multiple significant buffs. The price dropped from 16,000 to 10,000, the damage went up 13% from 60 to 69, and the recoil dropped 51% from 65 to 32. However, its accuracy went down from 97 to 94, and its reliability went up from 65 to 60. The modified SKS isn't modular, so it benefits from the same unfair durability as the normal SKS. Compared to said SKS, you do get a general stat increase, and even enough bullet velocity to be technically considered a high-range firearm. The modified SKS also comes with 4 medium-sized rails, a riser rail, and you can finally attach a silencer to counteract the incredible volume. But 10,000 credits is a large investment for no upgrade path, and the modified SKS is overkill at security level 2. That being said, due to its solid performance, it gets into the B tier anyway. Moving on to security level 2 builds, let's start with value. Due to the new top priority mission at the recreation base, I consider a Saga 12 or Benelli M2 nearly essential to any value build. The recreation base is packed with scout and stormtrooper mimics, and it'll take forever to get through with anything less. Personally, I'd choose the Benelli M2 for the better upgrade path. If you're a sidearm, I'd go for the Beretta M9. It's a fair 3,000 credits, and it's a large improvement over any pistol at security level 1. Ideally, you'd use the Beretta M9 for the rest of the game, since the low cost per damage will save you a significant amount of credits in the long term. For performance, I'd go for the modified SKS, the best gun at security level 2, and the Glock 18C, the best pistol at security level 2. It's an expensive combo up front, but it's extremely powerful in both short and long range combat, and has no major weaknesses when used together. For stealth, I'd recommend running either variation of the PP91 Kedr, obviously using a silencer and the new P+ ammo. Both variations are quiet and light, and being able to put up high DPS on full auto in the recreation base is critical. On to security level 3, I'll start with the premium variation of the Saga 12. The price is only about 1,000 credits more than the base base version, but it has worse stats. It has the same damage, similar recoil, much lower accuracy, similar reliability, much lower bullet velocity to the point it's below the PM. It does have better durability, but it's also about 10% louder. The culprit for the lowered stats is the long barrel being replaced by the short barrel. The long and short barrels were likely meant to be swapped, but until then, I'd recommend putting in the long barrel manually before buying. Thankfully, the premium Saiga 12 does at least come with a railed handguard and dust cover for placing attachments, but that's not enough to get out of the D tier. Next up is the base 7800 credit M4A1. Compared to the modified M4A1 in 0.13, it's down over 5,000 credits, so of course it got a few nerfs. First, the accuracy went down from 95 to 87, reliability from 50 to 48, its bullet velocity went down 24% from 880 to 668, it's a bit heavier, and it doesn't come with as many rails as before, but the recoil did get halved, so full auto is much more usable. The biggest strengths of the M4A1 is its 800 rounds per minute, with the second highest DPS in the game at 846, and it has a very low cost per damage at 22. I'll put it in the B tier behind the modified SKS. For 12,550 credits, you can buy the premium M4A1, which has slightly better recoil and reliability, and much better accuracy, bullet velocity, durability, and volume. Now it comes with a silencer and 3 medium rails, making it a very strong and well-rounded firearm. I'll give it the first A tier. Next is the base 8400 credit G36, which I'll compare to the 6750 credit G36 from 0.13. The accuracy went down from 95 to 88, the bullet velocity went down 16% from 792 to 662, the weight is now doubled, and the bottom rail and 2 side rails are gone. Overall, the nerfs are quite significant, but the damage went up 18% from 42.5 to 50, recoil down 60% from 55 to 22, and the reliability went up 15% from 40 to 47. Compared to the base M4A1, it costs 600 more credits and has slightly worse stats, so I'll put the G36 right behind the M4A1 in the B tier. For 14,700 credits, you can buy the premium G36. Compared to the base version, it has slightly better recoil and reliability, and much better accuracy, bullet velocity, durability, and volume. It also has a reflex sight, silencer, and comes with a bunch of rails. In the G36 in 0.13, it now has half the recoil and better reliability and bullet velocity. In fact, it now has the highest bullet velocity and thus also range in the game. I'll give it A tier. For 8,450 credits, you can pick up the base AK-74. Compared to the AK-74N in 0.13, the recoil dropped 58% from 50 to 21, and it's a bit quieter with the included muzzle brake. But the reliability went down 17% from 60 to 50, the bullet velocity dropped 1%, and it's slightly heavier. For 50 credits more than the base G36, you get slightly better recoil, accuracy, and reliability, and much better bullet velocity, durability, and volume. The trade-off is you don't get the long top rail, it has lower DPS with only 600 rounds per minute, and the cost per damage is 5% higher. B tier. The premium 10,850 credit AK-74 is basically the base AK-74 with slightly better stats, a bunch of rails, and an overpriced heavy muzzle brake. I'd recommend swapping the muzzle brake for a silencer before purchasing the AK-74, or you'll be paying 2,000 credits to reduce loudness by 3 and get a few other insignificant buffs. That being said, the margins between A and B tier are slim, so I'll put it in the A tier. The next gun, the premium 8200 credit PP19 Vityaz, is thankfully not another case of buying the same gun for a worse price. Compared to the base version, you get better recoil, accuracy, reliability, 40% higher bullet velocity, over 20% higher durability. It's the quietest firearm in the game with the included silencer, and it also comes with a railed dust cover, handguard, and 3 medium rails. The amount of rails is probably overkill, so I'd take at least one off unless you plan to move them onto a future firearm. The long-term value is questionable with 31 credits per 100 damage, but performance-wise it definitely deserves a B tier. The premium 8100 credit MP9 is a great example of having too many attachments and not enough raw power. Literally over half the price is made up of a silencer and 3 700 credit unique rails. Compared to the base MP9, you do get slightly better recoil, reliability, and bullet velocity, and much better durability and lower volume with the silencer, but it costs over 3 times more. Now, compared to the similarly priced premium PP19 Vityaz, many of the stats such as accuracy, bullet velocity, durability, and volume are significantly worse. So even for the price, I can't give it higher than a C tier. The premium 10,900 credit Benelli M2 is another case of paying big money for included accessories, but this time you're buying something that's solid in the endgame. If you compare the base Benelli M2 and remove the included attachments, you're only paying 1,400 credits more for better recoil, accuracy, reliability, bullet velocity, durability, volume, a railed handguard, and most importantly, an 8-round magazine instead of just 6. But if we also consider the included Benelli M2 rail and holographic sight, which synergizes well with shotgun ammo spread, it's good enough to get into the A tier. The base AKM comes in at 8,900 credits. It got a small accuracy and reliability buff, now comes with a muzzle brake for a bit less volume, and got its recoil slashed by 59%, down from 70 to 29. For nerfs, it now has 1% lower bullet velocity and is slightly heavier. Overall, this is a huge buff to the point it's almost competitive with the AK-74. I'd still choose the AK-74 instead for a quieter firearm with much better recoil, bullet velocity, and a 50% larger magazine, but the AKM is fine if you want higher damage per bullet and reliability. I'll give it B tier as well. The premium 10,850 credit AKM has a bit better accuracy, reliability, and bullet velocity compared to the base AKM, and also much better durability, volume, and comes with a few rails and a silencer. And compared to the modified AKM in 0.13, the recoil went down 55% from 65 to 29, reliability up from 65 to 66, but the accuracy dropped from 92 to 90. It's much heavier now, and the bullet velocity got nerfed 6% from 786.5 to 743. Overall, I'd call it a small buff, and I'll put it in the A tier. Next is the premium 9,050 credit AKS-74U, which has almost exactly the same stats as the base version. And it also comes with a railed handguard and dust cover, which is enough to break into the B tier. The Mosin has finally been added to the game. For 10,550 credits, you get a bolt-action rifle with 150 damage per bullet, extremely low cost per damage, and high bullet velocity and range. The main downsides here are the low 5 capacity internal magazine. Each time you fire, you need to chamber the next round manually, and its upgrade path isn't competitive in security level 4, which I'll get into deeper later. Though, for its face value stats, it'll still get an A tier. Moving on to security level 3 builds, I'd buy or upgrade to get the premium Benelli M2. It has very high damage per bullet, and it has good durability and very low cost per damage. However, you might rely more on your sidearm with the low 8-round magazine, so I'd again pair that with the Beretta M9, which has a low cost per damage and extremely high durability. The modified SKS could also work instead of the Benelli M2. It has a good cost per damage, and it has that unfair durability from being non-modular. For performance, I get the premium G36 or M4A1, which are both very quiet, accurate, and have extremely high DPS on full auto, and are the two highest range firearms in the game. I'd pair either with the Glock 18C, which is the best and most expensive pistol in the game. For stealth, if you want to get as quiet as possible, I'd go for the PP19 Vityaz. It has the lowest volume in the game at 24 with a silencer, and it has decent performance on full auto. But if you want good performance while keeping volume low, a great option would be running the M4A1 and Beretta M9, which are also both very quiet. For security level 4, I'll start with the new base SR25. At 11,800 credits, you get a firearm which has similar stats to the base Mosin, except now you get a 20 capacity magazine, much lower recoil, and it's not bolt action. While perhaps not as fun to play, it'll perform far better. A tier. The premium SR25 comes in at over double the price, being the most expensive firearm in the game by a wide margin. Compared to the base SR25, you get slightly better recoil, accuracy, and reliability, and much better bullet velocity, durability, and volume. It also comes with a silencer and vertical foregrip. The premium SR25 is obviously meant to be the best firearm in the game, and it is. S tier. Next is the premium 16,000 credit Mosin. I'll start by clarifying the issue with its upgrade path from security level 3. If you compare it to the base Mosin, the only significant improvements are the removable 10 capacity magazine, 15% higher durability, and it now comes with a silencer attached. If we now compare this to the base SR25, it's hard to make a case that the premium Mosin is even equal for security level 4 missions. Here, volume matters much less since the power of your equipment scales more than the difficulty of enemies, days, and the majority of the final mission is indoors. And besides volume and bullet velocity, the Mosin doesn't have much upside. In fact, one deceptive stat here is that the Mosin has an equal 180 rounds per minute, which would only be possible if it wasn't bolt action. Most players will probably max out at maybe half that, meaning the DPS is no more than half the SR25's. Basically, the Mosin is not the play for the endgame, even though there's a security level 4 version. Its strength is long-range combat, where the extra time between chambered rounds is insignificant, but range isn't very useful at security level 4, and even in Into the Radius 2 in general. Anyway, it still gets an A tier. The base 13,150 credit SVD may as well be a copy-paste of the SR25 stats, but I'll go over the balance changes anyway. Compared to the SVD in 0.13, the recoil went down 48% from 75 to 39, reliability up 25% from 40 to 50, the weight went down slightly, the bullet velocity was nerfed about 10%, that's now a bit quieter with the included muzzle brake. It also got pushed back from security level 3 to 4 to keep firearms with similar performance at the same security level. Now compared to the base SR25, it costs over 1,000 credits more, has half the mag capacity, and much worse recoil, but it has a third more bullet velocity. Also, the base SVD's upgrade path doesn't go as far as the base SR25, so I'd recommend avoiding the SVD completely. It still makes the A tier, but the value is questionable. The premium SVD also got a bunch of balance changes. Compared to the modified SVD in 0.13, the recoil got halved, the reliability went up by 2, and it now comes with a silencer. The accuracy got nerfed from 97 to 94, the bullet velocity got nerfed by about 10%, the weight was slightly increased, and it also got pushed back from the security level 3 to 4. Now compared to the premium SR25, you save about 4,000 credits, but lose the vertical foregrip, only have a 10 capacity magazine instead of 20, and most of the stats besides damage and rate of fire are at least slightly worse. So if you can't quite afford the premium SR25 over the SVD, I'd recommend removing the vertical grip and silencer and start saving up to buy them later. It's important to note that the premium SVD has almost identical stats to the premium Mosin, but since it's not bolt action, it'll go up to S tier. Next is the 16,000 credit modified VSS Vintorez, one of the few guns that aren't modular yet. To compensate, the recoil dropped 60% from 35 to 14, which is the lowest in the game, and the reliability went up 8% from 55 to 60. However, it did get moved up to security level 4, and its weight went up slightly. Vintorez has about half the damage per bullet of other security level 4 guns, but makes up for it with amazing recoil, accuracy, reliability, and durability. If you want simplicity, it's still a good choice in 0.14, especially with the unfair durability from being non-modular. S tier. The last gun on the list is the 16,000 credit modified AS Val, which is also one of the only guns which aren't modular yet. From 0.13, its recoil got buffed 40% from 35 to 21, reliability buffed 15% from 55 to 63, and its weight went up by 35. Per bullet, it does 10% less damage than the Vintorez at only 70, but it has an impressive 900 rounds per minute. This works out to 1,239 damage per second, which is by far the highest in the game. The problem here is the AS Val has a 319 meter per second bullet velocity, which is basically the same as the PM, and the max mag size is only 20. If you're not careful, you can empty your mag in just over a second, which means you'll almost always use more ammo than you need when on full auto. I'd only recommend this gun to anyone who has the credits to burn through lots of ammo, as well as has good storage optimization, since you'll need to carry a lot of ammo with you. I do realize that you don't need to always use full auto, but since that's the main strength of the AS Val, buy something else if you're not going to use it. So because of its lack of versatility with poor accuracy and very low range, I'll give it an A tier. For the security level 4 value build, I'd go for the base SR25 with the Beretta M9. You get extremely high and cheap damage with the SR25 and an inexpensive, reliable sidearm. If you already have something like the premium G36, M4A1, or even the Benelli M2, those are all usable as a primary. However, if you use full auto with the G36 and M4A1, you'll end up needing to buy and carry around high amounts of ammo. For performance, the best primary is definitely the premium SR25. Besides great performance, the SR25 also comes with many rails and attachments, and you can easily add even more rails to put everything exactly as you like. Personally, I'd pair the SR25 with the Glock 18C, but if you're fluent with mag palming at this point, you may end up only using the SR25 anyway. If you want to be as quiet as possible going into the final missions, I'd still go with the SR25. It's the quietest security level 4 firearm, and if you go for something a bit quieter like the PP19 Vityaz, you'll end up using full auto and hauling around crazy amounts of ammo for the final mission. On the other hand, with the SR25, you'll be much lighter and faster, and again, especially if you're fluent with mag palming, running the SR25 as your only firearm is totally reasonable at security level 4, and you'll save a bit of weight from not carrying around a sidearm with its required ammo. That's it for the video. If you want to stay up to date on Into the Radius 2 stuff, feel free to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.